The sun was cruel on Varisha Prime. It burned the sand, the air, and the skin of any fool who walked too long without cover. Jack Monroe was one of those fools today. His ship had crashed 3 days ago, and his water was almost gone. All he had was a cracked canteen, a broken wrist comb, and hope that someone, anyone, would see his distress beacon. He moved slowly through the dunes, sweat dripping from his face. He stopped only when he saw something strange on the horizon. A small figure standing still. Not a beast, not a mirage, a person. Or at least someone shaped like one. He lifted his hand, tried to wave. The figure turned. And that's when Jack saw her. A girl no older than 15. Maybe younger. Her skin was light blue. Her long white hair braided with golden thread. Her eyes were large, glowing faintly like 2 moons. She wore no armor, no tech. Just simple wraps and dusty sandals. Jack called out, "Hey, do you understand me?" The girl didn't answer. She looked at him for a few seconds, then dropped something on the sand and ran. Jack hurried to the spot. In the sand, half buried, was a smooth stone tile with a strange symbol carved on it. He didn't know why, but the shape made his fingers itch. A circle with an open eye at the center. That night, he found a broken shack to rest in, maybe once used by desert traders. As he drank the last few sips of water, he looked at the tile again. It felt warm. In his hand, why had the girl shown herself only to run away? Why leave this behind? The next morning, he saw her again, standing near the rocks. Waiting. This time, she didn't run. She turned and walked slowly. Not looking back, Jack followed, step by step. For 2 hours they walked in silence. Then the sand turned to black stone, and there, half buried in dust, stood a shape that made Jack freeze. A pyramid, but not like Earth's. This one was twisted, taller, sharper, its black surface carved with glowing lines. It pulsed like it had a heartbeat. The girl finally spoke, her voice soft, like wind. "No one enters," she said. "They are afraid." Jack looked at her, confused. Afraid of what? What is this place? She looked at him, eyes glowing a bit more now. "This is the Tomb of Worlds," she whispered. "No one who enters returns." Jack looked up at the strange structure. It felt old, not just ancient, but timeless. It watched him, even though it had no eyes. He stepped closer, running his hand along the smooth black wall. The symbols shimmered beneath his fingers. The girl stepped back, her voice shaking now. "It waits for one with the mark." "What mark?" Jack asked, turning around, but she was staring at his wrist, the one that had been burned when he crashed. The burn had left a scar, but now that he looked closely, it wasn't just a scar. It was the same symbol as the stone tile, the same circle and open eye. Jack's heart pounded. "What is this? Why do I have this mark?" She shook her head slowly. "It is not given, it is chosen." Then she pointed at the pyramid. "If you touch the center stone, it will open." Jack hesitated. The wind howled around them, hot and sharp. He could turn back now, try to survive one more day in the desert, wait for rescue, but something inside him, a deep, pulsing instinct, told him this was the real reason he came. Not the crash, not the mission. This, he stepped forward. Sira, that was her name. She finally said it, stayed behind, lips pressed tight. Jack reached the center stone. It was dark, smooth, cold, then warm. He placed his hand flat against it, and the world began to shake. Dust flew. The lines on the pyramid glowed brighter than the sun, and with a deep, rumbling groan, the stone door slid open. Jack turned to Sarah. She looked terrified, but also hopeful. "You opened it," she whispered. "After all this time, you really opened it." The air inside the pyramid was different. Not hot, not cold, just strange. It felt heavy, like it had weight. Like it had memory. Jack stepped slowly into the glowing hallway. His boots pressed soft patterns into the glowing dust on the floor. Sarah stayed at the entrance, 1 foot inside, 1 foot out. Her fingers trembled as she touched the wall. The lines were glowing all around them now, responding to Jack's presence. Not to her, not to the wind, only him. This place, Jack whispered, it's alive. Sarah nodded slowly. It sleeps until the chosen touches the stone. Jack didn't answer. He was still thinking about the mark on his wrist, the scar that matched the ancient symbol. He never had it before the crash. It had burned into his skin during the explosion, but now it seemed like fate, not accident. As they walked deeper, the hallway began to hum. The sound wasn't loud, but it touched the bones. Strange symbols floated across the walls, glowing in rhythm with Jack's heartbeat. Sarah whispered, "You don't know what this place is, do you?" Jack glanced at her. "No," he replied, "but I think I was meant to find it." They entered a large chamber, tall and round. The walls were covered in carvings, pictures of beings with tall heads, long arms, standing beside human-like figures. Some held hands, others held weapons. At the center of the chamber stood a large stone pillar, and on it a small floating cube glowing with white-blue light. Sarah stepped back in fear. "That is the memory stone," she said, voice barely a whisper. "It holds the history of the ones who came before." Jack looked at it, it seemed to pulse like it was breathing. He raised his hand slowly, unsure. "What happens if I touch it?" he asked. "It only responds to the marked," Sarah said. "And if it accepts you?" The pyramid opens further. Jack hesitated, then placed his palm near the cube. The cube shivered, floated higher, and suddenly a flash, white light exploded. In his mind, he was no longer in the room. He stood in a great city of silver towers. Alien ships floated above. But they were not fighting. They were docking peacefully. Thousands of aliens walked the streets, but humans were there too. Not enemies, not slaves, equals, partners. Jack gasped. Then a scream. The vision twisted, and war erupted. Cities burned, alliances broke. The cube showed him the fall, and the last image, a group of leaders sealing the pyramid, leaving behind the message, "When the blood is right, when the heart is pure, let him in." The vision ended. Jack fell to his knees, his breath shaking. Sarah rushed to him. "What did you see?" she asked, her voice tight with fear and hope. "I saw peace," Jack whispered. "And I saw the war that destroyed it all." Sarah looked at the glowing cube. "You were meant to see it," she said softly. "Only the air sees the memory." Jack stood slowly, the cube still floating behind him. "So, what now?" he asked. Before Sarah could speak, the chamber rumbled. A hidden wall cracked open, revealing a spiral path leading deeper. The pyramid was opening again. Jack turned to her. "You coming?" Sarah looked unsure. She had waited her whole life near this forbidden place, raised by elders who said never enter. Now she was standing next to the one who made the stone door move. She nodded once and followed as they walked down the spiral path. They came into a hall with dozens of statues. Tall, strange figures, each held a weapon in one hand and a globe in the other. Jack felt drawn to one of them. It had his face. The statue was cracked, old, but the resemblance was there. His heart thudded louder. "Sarah," he whispered, "why is there a statue of me here?" She stared in silence, then said something that made Jack's skin crawl. "Because you are not the first." He turned sharply. "What do you mean?" She shook her head. There were stories of a visitor from the stars who helped build the pyramid long ago. The elders called him the bridge, the one who connected species, then vanished. Jack stepped closer to the statue. The writing at its base had faded, but the mark was clear. carved into the chest, the same mark as on his wrist. He stared at it, confused. Was this a past version of him? A clone? An ancestor? He didn't know, but he felt one thing with full certainty. He didn't just crash here, he was sent. And whatever waited in the deeper chambers, it wasn't finished with him yet. The spiral path led them deeper than Jack expected. The air grew colder, but not like winter cold. It was the kind of chill that touched the soul like being watched by ghosts. Syrah's steps slowed, and she held onto the wall for balance. "The pyramid is testing you," she said softly. "It remembers who you are." Jack didn't respond. His eyes were locked ahead, where a soft blue light flickered from the next room. He didn't feel fear. He felt something else, like gravity, like he was being pulled forward by fate. They stepped into a round chamber. It was huge, with a high ceiling shaped like a dome. In the center stood a platform, floating slightly above the floor. But what caught Jack's attention were the walls. Every inch was covered in carvings, not just pictures. They moved. Glowing figures walked across the stone, repeating scenes. From long ago, Syrah gasped. "This is the Chamber of Echoes," she whispered. "It shows the past to those who listen." Jack stepped closer to one glowing image. He saw an alien queen kneeling beside a human warrior. The queen placed her hand over her heart while the man bowed his head. Then the image flickered, and both turned to stone. Another wall showed a planet breaking apart, hundreds of ships flying away from it. Children crying, elders sealing vaults like the one Jack had just entered. The carvings made no sound, but Jack could feel the emotions: sorrow, fear, hope. He turned to Syrah. "Why would they hide this?" he asked. She touched a wall gently, tracing a glowing symbol. "Because their peace didn't last," she said. "They built a perfect alliance. But fear broke it." Suddenly, the room darkened and the center platform lit up the floor. Pulsed, and a deep voice echoed through the chamber, not from speakers, but from the very walls. "He has returned," the voice said, slow and powerful. The echo of the first human. Jack stepped onto the platform, and, immediately, light rose around him. A beam touched his chest, scanning him. It did not burn, but it pulled at something inside him. A memory, maybe, or a piece of something. Long buried, more images appeared around the dome, projected from the beam. This time they were not carved, but real. A glowing hologram of a war council, alien leaders arguing over maps. A human figure stood at the center, silent, calm, watching. "That's you," Syrah whispered, eyes wide. "No," Jack said slowly. "That's someone like me." The projection changed again, showing the same human kissing a woman with silver skin. Their hands touched a glowing cube, the same one Jack had seen earlier. And then, fire, betrayal, a battle in space, and the pyramid being sealed. The voice returned. "You are the echo. Not the origin," it said, "but you carry his blood." And his burden. Jack's knees grew weak. The weight of what he saw pressed down on him. "I don't understand," he said. "I'm just an explorer, not some ancient hero," the voice replied. "The blood remembers, even when the mind forgets." Syrah stepped forward, her eyes filled with tears. Maybe that's why your ship crashed here," she whispered. "Not an accident, a calling." The platform lowered, and the lights dimmed. A section of the floor opened, revealing a small staircase. Jack looked at Syrah, unsure. She nodded. "The pyramid is letting you through." He hesitated. "I'm not ready," he said quietly. Syrah smiled sadly. "No one ever is." They walked down the stairs, into a tunnel lit by strange purple lights. The walls were smooth and humming. As they moved forward, a question burned in Jack's mind. "If I'm just an echo," he asked, "what happened to the original?" Syrah looked ahead, her voice soft. "Maybe he failed," she said, "or maybe he became something else." Jack wasn't sure what to believe. but deep inside, something had awakened. Not just curiosity, purpose. The tunnel led to a massive doorway shaped like a star. It had no handle, no lock, but in the center was a handprint, glowing. Waiting, Jack looked down at his wrist. The mark burned softly under the skin. He looked at Sarah one last time. She whispered, "If you place your hand, there's no turning back." Jack took a deep breath, then slowly raised his hand and placed it on the stone. The door glowed bright, and the hum turned into music. The door opened, revealing a world neither of them were ready for, but they entered anyway. Asterisk, the star-shaped doorway opened without sound. Jack stepped through first. Sarah followed close behind. As soon as they crossed the threshold, the door sealed shut behind them. There was no going back, only forward. The space before them was unlike anything they had seen so far. It was not a hallway or a chamber. It was a massive circular arena made of smooth silver walls that shimmered like liquid. There were no windows, no doors, just the sound of the air humming and pulsing like a heartbeat. Sarah grabbed Jack's arm. "This is it," she whispered. "The trial of blood and light." Jack turned to her, confused. "What does that mean?" he asked. Sarah's voice shook as she spoke. "Only the one who bears the mark can face it. It's a test. Not of strength, but of truth." Before Jack could respond, the ground beneath him lit up. A white circle formed around his feet, and a tall structure rose from the floor. It was a pillar, and on top of it sat a crystal orb, pulsing with red light. Then another orb rose beside it, this one glowing bright gold. The voice returned, ancient and powerful. "The heir has entered," it said. "Let him face the balance." Suddenly, the arena changed. One half of the space turned blood red, filled with visions of fire, screams, and war. The other half turned golden, peaceful, calm, showing life, unity, and family. Jack stood in the middle, his body tense. "What do I do?" he asked aloud. The voice answered, "Choose." Sarah called from the edge of the trial. "You must walk into one of them, but choose with your heart, not fear." Jack looked left. The red side was filled with images of power, glory, battle. He saw himself wearing armor, leading fleets, commanding soldiers. He felt strong there, invincible. But something about it felt cold, empty. Then he looked right. The gold side showed him helping others. Standing between enemies as a peacemaker, he saw Sarah there, smiling. He saw a future not of control, but of connection. And it felt warm, familiar. Still, it wasn't easy. The red side offered answers, force, and victory. The gold side offered struggle, patience, and peace. Jack stepped toward the golden side. As soon as his foot touched the light, a beam surrounded him. It did not burn, but it dug deep into his thoughts, his memories, even his regrets. He saw flashes, his childhood, his failures, the people he let down. He heard voices of doubt. "You're not good enough. You're weak. You're lost." But then he heard Sarah's voice. "You opened the pyramid," she had said. "You were chosen." He pressed forward. Letting the golden light surround him, he felt pain. Yes, but also peace. The voices faded, and the light grew brighter. Then the two orbs above the pillar began to spin. The red one cracked, then shattered into dust. The golden orb floated higher, glowing stronger. The ancient voice spoke again. "The heir has chosen the path of unity. The blood is worthy, and the light accepts him." Jack dropped to his knees, breathing hard. It wasn't just a test. It was a mirror, one that showed him everything inside. And yet he had passed. Sarah rushed to him, her hands on his shoulders. "You did it," she said, smiling through tears. "You chose the hard path, the right one." Suddenly, the arena began to shift. The walls melted away, revealing a new chamber behind them. In the center stood a throne, ancient and cracked, but behind it, A door made of pure starlight. The voice spoke one last time. "Enter the vault," it said. "Unlock the memory of stars." Jack stood slowly, looking at the throne. It wasn't meant to be sat upon. It was a reminder. Power was not about ruling. It was about remembering. He walked past the throne with Sira beside him. Her eyes still wide, her hand trembling in his. She looked at him. "You're not just here to open doors," she said. "You're here to bring the lost voices back." The light from the star door pulsed gently. Jack stepped forward, and the light let him in. The door of starlight welcomed them with warmth, not heat, not pressure, but something deep, like being hugged by memory. Jack stepped through, and Sira followed close behind. They entered a new chamber, one unlike anything they had seen so far. The room had no ceiling, only stars, millions of them, swirling slowly above, like a sky frozen in time. Beneath their feet was a glass floor, and below it a river of light flowed like liquid stars. Everything shimmered, but nothing felt solid. It was as if they stood inside the mind of the pyramid itself. Sira gasped. "This is the vault of memory," she whispered. "My elders believed it was a myth." Jack turned slowly, staring at the glowing walls where symbols floated like fireflies. In the center of the room stood a tall column, smooth, glowing, and humming like a heartbeat. It responded to his presence, pulsing brighter as he approached, but before he could touch it, Sira pulled back. Her face was pale, her eyes full of fear. I can't go further," she said. "This place wasn't meant for me." Jack looked at her, confused. "You've come this far with me," he said. "Why stop now?" Sira looked down, her voice shaking, "Because I wasn't just guiding you," she whispered. "I was sent here to test you." Jack froze. "What do you mean?" She stepped back, tears rising in her glowing eyes. "My people knew someone would come, someone with the mark. They didn't believe it would happen in their time, so they trained me to wait." Jack felt his chest tighten. So all of this? Finding me, leading me here, was a mission. Sira nodded, slowly. "Yes," she said, "but it became more than that." She held out her hand. Light shimmered over her skin, revealing something Jack had never seen before. Hidden just under the surface of her blue skin were faint human veins. Not alien, not synthetic, but human. Jack stepped forward, shocked. "You're part human." Sira smiled sadly. "My mother was born here," she said, "a desert walker chosen to protect the old ways. But my father, he came from the stars." Jack's heart pounded. "And your father was human?" Sira nodded again. "He came in another time," she said. "Maybe the same one you saw in the Chamber of Echoes. He loved this world, but war called him away. He never came back." Jack looked into her eyes. All this time, she had seemed different, not just because of her glow or her silence, but because something inside her remembered. Just like him. "I wasn't just meant to lead you," Sira said, voice soft. "I was meant to awaken too." Jack stepped closer to the central column. It pulsed faster now, brighter. Waiting for his touch, he looked back at Sira. "You're not just a guide," Kay said. "You're the key too." She blinked, unsure. But Jack reached out, grabbed her hand, and placed it over the column with his. The reaction was instant. The room exploded in light. Stars danced wildly overhead. The glass beneath them shook with power. Symbols flew through the air, not random, but forming patterns and stories. The vault spoke in a voice older than time. Bloodlines united. It said, "The memory is ready to return." Suddenly, walls peeled open, revealing 100 sealed chambers, each one filled with holographic figures. Humans, aliens, hybrids, each one frozen in a moment of life. Conversations, laughter, peace. It was like the past had been saved here, waiting to be touched. By someone real, Jack and Sierra stood at the center. Holding hands, the vault spoke again. She carries the voice of the old blood. He carries the mark of the chosen. Together, they are not destroyers, but healers. Sierra's face changed. She no longer looked like a frightened girl. She looked like a queen reborn, someone who finally knew who she was. Jack smiled at her. "Guess we were both meant to be here," he said. She nodded slowly. "I think we were meant to find each other." Suddenly, the far end of the vault cracked open, revealing something massive. A ship, ancient, black, and resting like a sleeping beast under starlight. It was beautiful and terrifying. And it began to wake up. The vault rumbled softly, not with danger, but with awakening. The ancient ship at the far end glowed from beneath its surface, long dead. Engines hummed like sleeping giants stretching after centuries of silence. Dust drifted off the hull like a sigh, as if the ship was breathing again. Jack and Sarah stood side by side, staring at the massive vessel. Its shape was smooth, curved like a wing, black as the sky behind it. Lines of golden light pulsed across. Its surface in perfect sync with the mark on Jack's wrist. He stepped forward slowly, drawn by something deeper than curiosity. Sierra followed him, her eyes wide with wonder and disbelief. "This ship," she whispered, "it's not from my world. It's from yours." Jack nodded. But even he didn't understand how or why it had waited so long, or for whom. As they got closer, a ramp lowered silently, smooth and clean. Not a single part creaked or failed. The ship welcomed them like it had been expecting them all along. At the top of the ramp, a door opened without a single touch. Inside, the air was warm and fresh, not recycled, but living. The lights came on one by one, revealing a bridge, covered in glowing controls and softly humming panels. Jack looked around. No dust, no decay. It was like the crew had just stepped away. Thousands of years ago, he touched a panel and the entire system came alive. A voice filled the room, calm and female. Genetic signature confirmed. It said, "Welcome back, operator." Jack blinked. "I'm not the operator," he said. Surprised, but the voice responded, "You carry the mark. That is enough." Sierra walked beside him, touching the smooth glass surface of the wall. She turned to him. "This ship," she said slowly, "was meant to reconnect the stars. My elders spoke of a vessel left behind after the Great Fall, one that held the map to every lost world." Jack stepped toward the main console. As soon as he touched it, a three-dimensional star map appeared in the air. Thousands of dots twinkled planets. Systems, forgotten names, some were green. Still alive, others were red, lost, or broken. One golden star glowed brighter than the rest. Sierra reached toward it. "That's my world," she said. "Varasha Prime." Jack looked at the full map. It didn't just show space, it showed paths. Connections between civilizations, old alliance routes, sealed corridors of travel that had long disappeared from every modern database. The ship spoke again. "Would you like to activate?" "The Unity Protocol." Jack hesitated. "What is that?" "A signal," the voice answered, "sent to the remaining worlds of the old alliance. An invitation to rebuild." Sierra looked at Jack, her voice soft, full of something between fear and hope. "Jack," she whispered, "if you send that signal, it means war could follow. Some may want to unite, others may try to destroy everything." Jack stared at the glowing golden map. His hand hovered over the activation crystal. He thought of Earth, of the wars, the greed, the hunger for power. But he also thought of kindness, of second chances. He looked at Sierra, her soft blue skin, her fierce heart, her secret pain, and he remembered the trial. He had chosen the path of unity. He couldn't turn away now. "I won't do it alone," he said quietly. He placed his hand on the console. Sira slowly placed hers over his. The crystal beneath their hands lit up with white light. Unity protocol activated. The voice confirmed. A signal burst from the ship, invisible but powerful. It moved through space like a wave, crossing stars, waking ancient receivers, calling out to anyone, anywhere, who still remembered the old ways outside the pyramid, far above Varasha Prime. Satellites blinked for the first time in centuries. In distant galaxies, forgotten beacons came to life. In secret vaults, ancient eyes opened once more. Inside the ship, the map updated itself. New lights began to blink. Responses, one by one, different worlds answered. Some in peace, some in silence, some in warning. Jack turned to Sira. Her face was calm, but her fingers were trembling. "We just changed everything," she said. Jack nodded. "Then we better be ready." The ship began to lift gently. The walls of the pyramid opened above them. Like petals of a flower, the stars welcomed them back, not as strangers, but as the ones who might bring something forgotten back to life. Hope. The ship rose above the desert like a forgotten god returning to the sky. The pyramid below grew smaller, its walls slowly closing again, sealing its secrets for the next chapter of history. Jack stood at the bridge, staring at the stars that now blinked in answer. Signals from ancient civilizations flooded the console. Some were full of words, greetings, surprise, questions. Others were silent pulses of light. But one thing was clear. The signal had been heard. The galaxy was waking up. Sira stood beside him, wrapped in silence. She watched the glowing map above the console, thousands of stars blinking, each one carrying a story. Some of those stories were peaceful, others were not. Not all of them will want peace. She said, voice low. Jack nodded. "I know," he replied. "But they'll remember the choice." The ship's AI chimed gently. Incoming visual transmission. Origin, Delcar system. Jack raised an eyebrow. Delcar? Sira looked surprised. That system hasn't sent anything in over 500 years. The screen lit up. An alien woman appeared, tall, silver-skinned, with markings down her face like branches of lightning. She looked directly at them, her eyes full of suspicion and something else, sorrow. "We received the signal," she said, "but we remember betrayal." Jack stepped forward, calm and clear. "I'm not here to rule," he said. "I'm here to reconnect what was lost." The alien studied him. Then her eyes moved to Sarah, your companion. "She carries the old blood." Sarah stepped closer. "My father was one of you," she said, "and I carry his hope." The screen went silent for a moment. Then a single nod. "We will listen." The signal cut. But the message remained. A door had opened, not just in space, but in memory. Over the next hours, more transmissions came. Some were excited, some were afraid. Others issued warnings, "Do not come." But for every closed door, two more blinked with interest. The map began to shift, glowing paths growing between worlds once thought broken forever. Jack sat down. Letting out a long breath, "We just started something big," he muttered. Sira sat beside him. "No," she said. "We started something old." Again, the ship moved into deep orbit, below them. Varasha Prime glowed like a sleeping ember. Sira looked down at her world, her home. "For so long we were forgotten," she said. "Now we are part of the galaxy again." Jack reached out and took her hand. "You're not forgotten anymore," he said. "None of us are." Suddenly, the ship's AI spoke again. Long-range distress signal detected. Coordinates match former Alliance world, Myron 4. Jack and Sira exchanged looks. "A distress call," Jack said. The AI confirmed, "Yes." Repeating every 6 hours, signal is over 200 years old. Jack stood, eyes locked on the coordinates. "This is what we're here for," he said. Sira nodded. "We help them." The ship shifted course. Stars changing direction around them. This time, they didn't move as explorers. They moved as bridge builders. Between past and future, between alien and human, Cira walked. To the observation window, her reflection shimmered in the glass, no longer a silent desert girl. She was something more now, a voice of two worlds. Jack joined her, their hands brushing. They didn't speak, they didn't need to, behind them the console updated again. A message was being transmitted across the network. Simple words, sent in hundreds of languages. We remember, we forgive. We are ready to begin again, and across the stars, on distant worlds, where silence had ruled for ages. Children looked up and saw lights blinking in patterns. Their elders had long forgotten. Fighters lowered their weapons to listen. Scholars wept to see the old signal return. The galaxy did not become peaceful overnight. But for the first time in thousands of years, someone had answered. Not with power, but with hope, and that was the first step to peace.